Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about Greenland. Now you probably think of it as this giant, remote, empty ice cube, right? Well, what if I told you it's actually one of the most sought after and contested pieces of land on the entire planet?
I mean, it's a land of ice, so why on earth is it at the center of this huge, century-long power struggle? It really doesn't seem to make sense. But trust me, there's a reason the world's biggest players have been eyeing it for so long. So what exactly is going on? The answer? Well, it's an absolutely incredible story. It's got everything. Heroic survival against all odds, a buried treasure that could literally change the global economy, and this is the big one, the future of all of our coastlines. It all ties together. All right, so first things first, let's get into what I like to call the Great Greenland Paradox. You hear the name Greenland, and you picture, well, something green, right? Rolling hills, maybe? The reality? Not so much. A staggering 80% of the entire island is covered in ice. And we're not talking a thin layer here. This ice sheet is up to 3 kilometers thick in some places. Just try to wrap your head around that. So that brings us right back to the big question. Why has the United States tried to buy it over and over and over again? What could they possibly want with a giant block of ice? Well, the answer starts with a pretty epic fight over who even owned it in the first place.
The whole modern story of Greenland was forged in ice, during an unbelievable test of human endurance that legally cemented who it belonged to.
Okay, so picture this. It's the early 1900s. The U.S. makes this claim that, hey, Greenland isn't one island, it's actually 2. And if it's 2, well, maybe one of them could be theirs for the taking. Denmark, of course, was not having it. They sent 2 explorers, Mikkelsen and Iversen, on what was supposed to be a quick mission to prove them wrong. It did not end up being a quick mission. It turned into a brutal 3-year struggle for their very lives.
After this just insane journey, they found it, tucked away in a pile of rocks, a note left by a previous explorer. And what it said basically settled the whole thing. It proved Greenland was one single landmass. Those simple words carried immense geopolitical weight, ending the dispute right then and there. Incredible, right?
But finding that proof wasn't the end of their story. Not even close. They get back to where their camp was supposed to be, and it's gone. Wiped out by storms. Their sled dogs, all dead from the cold. And the rescue ship, it had left. The crew just assumed they were dead and sailed away. Can you even imagine? They were completely, totally alone, forced to survive in the wreckage of a ship trapped in the ice.
So that heroic struggle really cemented Greenland's identity. But what about today? What is life actually like for the 57,000 Danish citizens who call this harsh, beautiful landscape home?
Well, for one thing, living in these extreme conditions is tough. To support the people who live there, the Danish government provides a pretty hefty financial subsidy. We're talking an amount that averages out to something like 12,000 US dollars per person, per month. Yeah, you heard me right.
And people don't just live scattered all over, of course. The vast majority of the population, about 80%, lives in towns and settlements right on the coast. The capital and biggest city is Nuuk, and it's home to about 20,000 people. And get this is something that's really hard for most of us to wrap our heads around. There are no roads connecting any of these towns. Zero. None. If you want to go from one settlement to another, your only options are by sea, by air, or yep, in some places, by dog sled. That's it.
Okay, so we've got this incredible history, this really unique way of life, but we still haven't answered that central question. The U.S. wasn't interested in the ice itself, no. They were interested in a secret they discovered completely by accident.
The story goes that back in the mid-20th century, a U.S. military plane crashed on the ice sheet. During the recovery mission, they had to bring in all this heavy machinery and drill deep, really deep into the ice. And in the process, they stumbled upon something that would change how the world saw Greenland forever.
What they found was a geological jackpot. Seriously, underneath all that ice, they discovered vast reserves of oil, massive deposits of natural gas, and mineral wealth so extensive, some believe it could rival the resources of all the Arab nations combined. The ice wasn't a barrier, it was a vault.
And that hidden treasure, well, it completely transforms Greenland. It's no longer a remote curiosity. It's now the centerpiece of a high-stakes global race against a very, very rapidly ticking clock.
And this timeline really shows America's persistent desire. Formal offers to buy Greenland have been made again and again for over 150 years, from right after the Civil War all the way up to just a few years ago. And every single time, Denmark has said no.
Now, here is the huge twist. The one thing that could make all these resources accessible is also one of the greatest threats facing our planet. The ice is melting. Experts predict that because of climate change, a huge amount of Greenland's ice could just melt away in the next 30 to 40 years.
But this access comes at a potentially catastrophic cost. All that meltwater has to go somewhere, and it's pouring into the ocean. The water from this single ice sheet is one of the primary drivers of rising sea levels across the globe. It's already putting low-lying coastal cities, from Venice to Miami to Dhaka, at existential risk of being submerged.
Which leaves us with this final, deeply unsettling question. Will Greenland's unfrozen future become a new Greenland of unimaginable prosperity, or will the very act of unlocking that wealth trigger a global catastrophe? The fate of this icy island and the fate of our coastlines are now one and the same.